quadratic expression is one which involves an x squared, like this expression here, x squared plus 8x plus 15. Our aim is going to be to factorize this expression. As we've seen already, factorizing in algebra means we need to introduce brackets. To factorize the quadratic expression, what we do is 1. We note that the number next to the x squared, or the coefficient of x squared, is 1. We then do 1 multiplied by the constant on the end. So we do 1 times 15, which is 15. 2. We now need to have a pair of numbers that will times to give 15 and add to give 8. To do this, I'm going to work out the factors of 15. So we should remember the horseshoe method. 1 times 15 is 15. 2 doesn't go. 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 3 is 15, but that's a repeat. So the factors of 15 are 1, 3, 5, and 15. So the pair that we need is going to be the factor pair which will add up to 8 and obviously times to give 15. The only pair that works is 3 and 5. So we can write x squared plus 8x plus 15 is equal to, and then we write down two brackets, x and x plus 3 and plus 5. And this is our factorized form. If you remember from FOIL, if you expand the expression on the right hand side with FOIL, you will end up with x squared plus 8x plus 15. Let's try another example. In this question, we have to factorize the expression x squared plus 16x plus 63. We know that the number by the x squared is 1, so the first thing I'm going to do is 1 times the constant term on the end, so 1 times 63, which is 63. I now need a pair of numbers that will times to give 63 and will add to give 16. So I'm going to look at the factors of 63. 1 times 63, 3 times, 3 times 21, 4 doesn't go, 5, 6 doesn't go, 7 times 9, and then 8 isn't going to work, 9 times 7, that's a repeat. So it's going to be one of these pairs. So x squared plus 16x plus 63 equals two brackets next to each other, multiplied together. There's going to be an x and an x to make the x squared. And then in the brackets, I need a pair of numbers that multiply to give 63, add to give 16. Looking at my list of factor pairs, it must be 7 and 9. So my answer is x plus 7 times x plus 9. And I could also write it as x plus 9 times x plus 7. Here is a question for you to try. Please pause the video now and have a go. I'd like you to factorize the expression on the board. Here is the answer. You might have expressions where there's a negative coefficient of x. In this case, the method is the same. Firstly, I notice that the coefficient of x squared is 1. I do 1 times the constant on the end, and there is a reason for this, because when we get to harder examples, this is the first step, so I want to get used to it. 1 times 24 is 24. So I need a pair of numbers that will multiply to give 24 and add to give minus 10. So we need to remember our rules of negative numbers. So first of all, let's consider the factors of 24. We have 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, and those are our factors of 24. Now, I know that I'm going to have two brackets. When I factorize, I'm going to have two brackets, an x and an x. I need a pair of numbers that will multiply to give plus 24 and add to give minus 10. Well, the only way I can add to give minus 10 is if at least one of the numbers is a minus. But the only way I can multiply to give 24 is if the signs of the numbers are the same. So I need to have two minuses. If I look at my list of factors, if I have minus 4 and minus 6, together they would make minus 10. Remember, minus 4 add minus 6 is going to be minus 4 take away 6, which is minus 10. So my numbers need to be minus 4 and minus 6. Here's another question. In this question, I've got 1x squared. So I need to do 1 times the constant, 1 times plus 56. That's 56. So I want a pair of numbers that will times to give 56 and will add to give minus 15. I look at the factors of 56. 1 times 56, 2 times 28, 6, 7 times 8, and that is it. So these are our factors of 56. So I know that x squared take away 15x plus 56 is going to be an expression where I have two brackets times together, an x and an x. I need a pair of numbers that will multiply to give plus 56, but add to give minus 15. This means that they both need to be negative numbers. So to get minus 15, the only way that could work here, looking at these factor pairs, is minus 7 and minus 8, because minus 7 plus minus 8 is minus 15, minus 7 times minus 8 is plus 56. Here's a question for you to try. Please pause the video now and have a go, and when you're ready for the answer, press play. Here is the answer. Probably the hardest type of this question is when you have a negative coefficient of x and a negative constant, but the method is exactly the same. Firstly, I know that x squared has a coefficient of 1 because it's just x squared on its own. So I do 1 times minus 21, which is minus 21. So I need a pair of numbers that will times to give minus 21, and this time will add to give minus 4. We look at the factors of just 21 first. So that's 1 and 21, 3 and 7. Those are our factor pairs. Then I'm going to write out the two brackets. So I have x and x. I need a pair of numbers that will multiply to give minus 21. Now the only way I can get numbers to multiply and give a minus is if both of the signs are opposite. So I have a minus and a plus. I need a pair of numbers that will add to give minus 4. If I look at my factor pairs, 1 and 21, there's no way I can make a combination that works. Minus 1 plus 21 is 20. Minus 21 plus 1 is minus 20. It's not going to work. But if I do minus 3 plus 7, that will be plus 4. Not quite. So if I do minus 7 and plus 3, that works, because minus 7 plus 3 is minus 4, which is what I want. And minus 7 times 3 is minus 21, which again is what I want. Here are some practice questions for you to try. Please pause the video now and have a go, and when you're ready for the answers, press play. Here are the answers. To solve a quadratic equation by factorization involves just one extra step. A quadratic equation needs to equal 0 before we can solve it. In this instance, I've got x squared plus 8x plus 15 equals 0. The first step is to factorize the quadratic expression on the left-hand side. If I do this, I will get x plus 5 bracket x plus 3. Now, remember, in between the brackets is a multiply. So I really have x plus 5 multiplied by x plus 3 equals 0. Now, if I have two things multiplied together to give 0, at least one of them must be 0. So I assume that each of the brackets is 0. So either x plus 5 equals 0, or x plus 3 equals 0. If x plus 5 equals 0, I can solve by subtracting 5 from both sides, which will give me x is equal to minus 5. And if I have x plus 3 equals 0, I can solve by subtracting 3 from both sides, which would give me x equals minus 3. You might be a bit confused that there are two answers, but a quadratic equation or a quadratic expression, if I draw it as a graph, looks like a curve. And it's possible that it hits the x-axis in two places. This is why there are two possible answers. And in this case, the graph will look something like this. If you notice, the graph cuts the x-axis at x equals minus 5 and x equals minus 3, which are the solutions. Here are some final questions for you to try. Please pause the video now and have a go, and when you're ready for the answers, press play. Here are the answers.